NCFAS is typically an observational assessment, so we are not going to demonstrate that functionality today. Bear in mind, you can use other instruments in the system, and you can send all your personal well-being index and other instruments straight to your clients to fill in. Each organization can define their own demographics they want to collect about the clients in order to have it as part of the outcome assessment that you get. You don't have to have any demographics, but this is just an example, and you can collect whatever you wish to have. There's absolutely no specific requirements here, and it's completely flexible, and you can put it in any way you want. Once you have a client, you activate your client, and you're ready to collect the first NCFAS. So with the NCFAS, you will go and create an assessment, and you will select which instrument you want to use. Now, you may wonder why you come for a NCFAS webinar and you see other instruments. The only reason we show you that there is other to demonstrate that this system can collect all your outcome instruments in one place. So you could do score, you could do strengths and difficulties, you could do up to 50 instruments that we have. And if you have any other ones, which we don't, you can discuss them with us and we will tell you whether we can bring them in for you. If we just look at NCFAS, this is the NCFAS G. There's also NCFAS R. Then also the NCFAS Trauma. So you can have any of those that you want. In terms of the phases of your intervention with NCFAS, you're always going to start with the intake. After 3 months, you're expected to do an interim assessment. After 3 more months, or at the end of the intervention, you're expected to do a closure. You can schedule your interim assessment immediately after you do the intake, okay? So it's not a problem. The closure you typically will do manually at the end of the intervention. So we're going to demonstrate an intake NCFAS, and obviously you're going to fill it in as a practitioner. As I said, it's an observational one, but you can also send assessments. You can nominate that you've done them jointly with your client. You can send them to the client via SMS or via email, and you can send them to any other third party. For example, in some instruments, we would like the school teacher to fill in an assessment, so you can do that. Okay, so we're going to concentrate on the practitioner experience. We're going to create the assessment, and the NCFAS would come on the screen. Just a little bit of information before we start with NCFAS. We have to collect some information about your casework. For example, when did you start the intervention? So you may say, oh, the intervention has started in February 21st, and my intakes, I want to backdate to the 7th of March. I mean, so you can do whatever you want around this. That's absolutely not a problem. We don't ask you to put your intervention end date. You can put it at the end. Why do we even collect it? We collect it so we can give you some analysis to let you know what is the statistics for shorter interventions versus longer interventions. So this is just common information that we think provide value when you do some analysis. In this area here, we typically would link a document that give your practitioners some more information on how to assess NCFAS. This would be the official NCFAS version documentation for the version that you want. We're typically going to add the logo for you, so it's nicely branded, and put whatever welcome or instructional information you want. NCFAS itself is a series of 7 or more scales or domains, and each one of them has subscales. So, for example, in the environment, we have housing stability, and we expected to mark it between -3 and +2, where 0 is your baseline. That means that the client is at an adequate level for housing stability, and they don't need any more help in this. Any negative value means there is a degree of difficulty. Any positive value means there's degree of strength for this specific subscale. If you cannot assess something, if you cannot assess safety in the community, you can say that it is unknown. Alternatively, if it's not applicable for your client, for example, further down in NCFAS, we ask about weapons held in a house and things like that. If it's not applicable, you can say it's not applicable. There is no problem how you do it. Generally speaking, NCFAS expects you to fill in everything, but because it's such a long questionnaire, and you can see it's a very long questionnaire, we're not going to go through everything today. What I would like to go is to explain that you have this optional commentary to add, and you can explain why you have provided a particular score for the overall score for environment, for example. And this would be the same for every NCFAS domain. So you can provide overall housing is adequate, but the neighborhood is not friendly. Okay, whatever you want to write. This information would be part of your analysis, so you can actually provide some specific context. If you decide you don't want to record commentary because you record it in case notes in your other system, you can ask us to remove it from the forms, or you can have it as optional. This is completely optional. You will probably find that we have put these NCFAS all mandatory. We can also configure your NCFAS as non-mandatory, so you can actually save it anytime and get back to it. Because it's so long, I'm not going to actually finish this particular questionnaire today, because otherwise I will have to spend most of this webinar filling in information. So I'm just going to leave this NCFAS. I'm going to cancel this one, and I'm going to show you one that was collected so you can have a look at it. So we're going to another client, and you can see that it gives you the indicators on everything. No commentary were entered in this one. But again, all the information you see in this demo is for demonstration only, and it's got no real clients behind it. So this is the data collection aspect of NCFAS. What else have we got? Everything else we've got here is the ability to search for your assessments, to schedule your assessments into the future, and also to look at reports. I'm going to go now and explain some of the reports that we have, and then we're going to have some questions about it. So the first report that we have, which is typically available to your practitioners, is the report about an individual client. We tend to provide two pieces of important information. The first one is the ability to look at the client journey for each and every subscale you have. For example, the children's behavior. And you can see that the children's behavior during the intake assessed as a mild problem, and during the interim and the closure was assessed as a baseline. So that is a success story. Also, if the child's relationship with the parents has been assessed initially as a really problematic with a moderate problem, and at the end has been assessed as a mild strength, this is a success story. It's not always a success story. Sometimes we see the other way around. We call this kind of report a traffic light report because it's easy to understand whether your clients progress or regress. The other one that we have is this one here. It shows you overall NCFAS where your client is at. So you can see that overall in the intake, which is the black line, your client was in a really problematic territory. It was definitely below zero. And at the closure, it was fluctuating from a strength to adequate. So this is a fantastic result for an intervention. And obviously, this is just a demonstration data. And we know that in reality, it's not always like that. The other types of report that we provide are more aggregated type report. These are the reports that you're going to use to provide to your funding bodies information about your operation. For example, if we look at overall parental capabilities, we can see that during the intake, we had 29% of your clients demonstrating a moderate problem, and 40% were in the baseline. During the closure, we can see 51.49% move to the baseline and 48.5% demonstrating a mild strength. This is the fantastic result. Obviously, it's not real, but it is something you would love to send to your funding bodies and show them the significant progress you're doing as a work. And obviously, you can filter those reports by date range and so forth. And you can also filter those reports per demographics. So if your target group is Aboriginal families, you can actually filter and look just at Aboriginal family statistics and how they fare. Okay, so this is a report you will get for every overall subdomain in NCFAS. And the last type of report we do out of the box will also give you a little bit more statistics about it. So if, for example, we look at the child well-being area, what we are going to see in this report is that you have 32 families that have no change at all from the intake to the closure for children behavior, which represent 35%. But the good news is 59 families have displayed a positive change. That means they moved in a positive direction from the intake to the closure, and that is 64%. And sometimes we also have the other stories. For example, here, when we talk about overall environment, we can see that there are 8 families that have regressed. That means they either lost the house or something like this. So we can see regression. But overall, this gives you some indication of the percentage of people that have improved and the percentage of people that have stayed the same and those that have regressed against each and every subscale as well as the overall. We also provide some other reports. So we can take your cohort and split them into those that were under the baseline to start with and just look at them as an aggregate. And we can see how the change has occurred. So we can see that for those that started from a really low point of observation, we can see significant changes of 1.8 positive in child well-being and 2 points in an NCFAS scale in environment and so forth. When we look at the cohort that started at the baseline or above, that means at 0 or above, we can look and we can see that, yes, we have improvement, but it is a much smaller improvement. So the improvement is maybe half a point, or sometimes it's even slightly negative. So these are talking about averages, and it's about our ability to tell the story to your funding body when you discuss with them. We also have the ability to produce custom reports. For example, I'm not sure if any of you is from Victoria, but in Victoria, the DFFH department requesting that organizations send them NCFAS information in a spreadsheet format, which is quite complicated to produce. For example, in this spreadsheet, you can see that you need to provide for every NCFAS subscale the result of every client that you have at the intake and then later on at the closure. It is very hard to produce a spreadsheet like this, and it will take days to aggregate the data. If you're a Victorian customer of ours, we will provide you this report. And if you have another report from the Victorian government that you need, you come and discuss it with us, and we will provide that as well. So I'm going to stop at this stage, and I'm going to hand it over to Adrian and to anyone that have a question.
Fantastic, Aviv. That's really good.